Take that, Bluey. They're called the Daggers, which is a really intense name for a bunch of archaeologists.
A bunch of nerds.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, we gotta have a cool name.
Right. We're the Daggers. I just think it's interesting.
So where are the lesbians?
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Last Week in Star Wars. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
It's another pretty light news week. Not a whole lot going on, but I wanted to make mention of Andor a month after it's been over, but the Nielsen ratings came out, and it set a series record and topped the streaming charts for the final week that it came out.
Beat out Bluey.
It
just
even
barely.
beat out Bluey.
Just barely.
Take that, Bluey. This isn't the kind of thing we usually cover, but I did like seeing Andor over the course of both seasons gaining popularity. I remember when season 1 came out and the first 3 episodes, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion going on online. People just didn't seem to be as interested in the series. It took some word of mouth for it to gain some traction. And I watched over that first season as things got more and more engaging online, and then in the second season it just kind of kept that going and reached all the way to the top of the streaming charts, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, it had such a different vibe from anything else that had come out for Star Wars live action stuff. So I think it took some time for the normies and the people who are very casual about Star Wars to hear about it and hear that oh, this is really good and you would like it. It's not, as pulpy as the other stuff. It's a little more gritty. So yeah, it makes sense that it would gain traction over time, but this is good news for them, I think.
Yeah, having also a year and a half, 2, I forget how long it was between seasons, but having all that time for people to be like, Andor's really good, it's good. And so people caught up on season 1 and were ready for season 2. I have no idea what this translates to for what Disney cares about. I guess that would be getting or maintaining subscribers, but it has to be good, at least for the creative team behind Andor, to be all right, a ton of people watched.
I think they topped off at 931 million minutes watched in that last week that Andor season 2 was on. So it just barely squeaked out ahead of Bluey. And it was interesting because I was reading about the Nielsen numbers and they don't include anything from mobile.
Oh, interesting.
So I wonder how many more that could have added.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know how all this stuff is tracked. And also, it was 3 40-ish minute episodes together. So it was like watching a movie instead of watching, one 20 or even 40-minute episode of something, but who cares? Semantics.
It did also bump Rogue One up it was in the top 10 still for minutes watched as far as movies on Disney Plus. So that's awesome. Fun to see.
Yeah, just wanted to keep a little more Andor love going. But as for some announcements that came out, we got 2 new comic series on the way, both miniseries. First up is Hunt for the Falcon. This is a 5-issue miniseries starting on September 3rd that will follow Han as he retires and then returns to a life of adventure in order to reclaim the Millennium Falcon from the criminal who stole it. So what do you think of that?
I like this idea. I was kind of hesitant at first because it felt kind of oh, okay, another Han and Chewie adventure story. But I like the idea of us seeing what's going through Han's head when he tries to retire or stop doing what he's doing and then kind of eventually get back into it. I think there's a lot of potential there for expanding a character like him.
Yeah, it does feel like the kind of story you'd get in a comic of just it does feel a bit like we're just going to fill in a gap and tell a story. I do appreciate that Duquesne is on the cover. He is the criminal who stole the Falcon, and we saw that story in Star Wars Adventures, granted from his point of view, so maybe we'll see it from Han's point of view and it won't be so charitable. But Duquesne in the end joins the Resistance, so there are some interesting things to play with there. I wonder if it's going to have time jumps because Leia and Lando will be in it, and Lando's been on Pisana for a long time. So I'm curious to see when this starts and if it goes all the way up to The Force Awakens.
Yeah. It's cool to get anything like during the sequel trilogy era, or I guess this is just before that. I'm curious about Leia being in it, because this will be like during their time apart, right? They're separated.
Right.
So
it's one of those story ideas where I'm like, the Hunt for the Falcon, okay, that tells us what it's about in a large, broad strokes sense, but there could be some interesting things to dive into more about Han and Leia's relationship. It could be that it takes place right after Ben falls to the dark side and they're grappling with their relationship and losing their son. And so there are some avenues for them to explore that I'll be curious to see what they cover.
Yeah. I do also understand the frustration of people wanting new stories or stories about other characters that aren't like the main Han, Chewie, Luke, Leia. So there is that, but again, this being kind of closer up to the sequel trilogy, I think gives us a little more room to work in that era and to bring in characters from those movies that we may not have seen as much.
And someone in our LEGO stream pointed out that this is probably a bit of a tie-in to The Force Awakens for its 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
So yeah, 10 years later, after we found out that Han lost and recovered the Falcon, we'll get to see maybe how he lost and recovered it, the full story. The other comic announced was Boba Fett Black, White, and Red. This will be a 4-issue miniseries telling stories about Boba Fett, and that starts on September 17th, so just 2 weeks after the Falcon one. These have been interesting. This is, I think, the third in this Black, White, and Red series, which they're all, for the most part, one-off little stories that really focus on the art, I think, which the art has been really great in the Vader and the Maul ones that they've done. So I'm curious again just to see what they cover for Boba Fett. There's a chance for it to be all art and no dialogue because he is a man of few words.
I dig the more stylized comic releases every now and then, and like you said, they've already done this for some other characters, so it makes sense to have one come out for Boba Fett. So the StarWars.com article that came out about the announcement says they have him tangling with Imperials and rogues, set him up with a merc mission that goes wrong 100 different ways. He's caught between the demands of the Empire and a rogue faction of the Rebellion. It sounds like there's going to be a cool sequence in a lava system, which great for the color red.
I have been always impressed by these comics that I didn't quite understand when they announced them. But seeing just the limitations of using only black, white, and red has produced some very cool art. So I have always enjoyed the comics for that. Today's episode is brought to you by Vessi. Urban life never stops, and neither should you. Vessi shoes are comfortable, stylish, and waterproof, helping you move through your day effortlessly. They're perfect for any time of day, whether you're walking the dog, grabbing coffee in the city, or running from point A to point B in the rain. I've personally worn the shoes running to the car while it was raining, and they had good traction so I didn't slip, and they kept my feet dry. We walk our dog Hilo every single day for at least 1.5 miles, and the Vessi weekend sneaker has remained comfortable. I also took them to our recent trip to San Francisco. They're lightweight, they pack well, and they were great to wear whether we were hiking through Muir Woods or meeting up with friends for drinks. The Vessi weekend sneaker is a versatile shoe that doesn't sacrifice style or comfort. Step confidently into daily life with the waterproof, ultralight Vessi weekend sneaker. With a 1-year warranty and worry-free 30-day returns, you're covered for every journey. Discover more at vessi.com/StarWars and get 15% off your first pair. Moving into last week in canon, we'll keep going with comic talk. I will mention that, of course, we got Trials of the Jedi this past week, the last High Republic adult novel. We're not going to go in depth about that because I don't want to be spoiling it for people who are still in the middle of it.
That's me.
Like you. But my review is out, spoiler-free review, and also a spoiler-free interview with author Charles Soule. Next week, I will be putting out a full spoiler interview with Charles Soule that was great, a lot of fun. I meant to keep him for like 20 or 30 minutes, and we talked for about an hour just about spoilers, and it was a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that if you're done with the book. For something we can talk about, the first issue of Dr. Aphra Chaos Agent came out. So in this, Dr. Aphra is recruited by Luke and the New Republic to help track down stolen artifacts and return them to their planets of origin.
Sounds like her.
Yeah. I think it's a good mixture of what she's known for, but still on track with her kind of becoming a better person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, the most intriguing thing about this series when they announced it, I was like, I like the idea of seeing Aphra and Luke work together.
I don't know that that's going to be in every single issue.
No.
It was in this one, and it was fun. They tracked down a fart relic. They tracked down a force relic together. And Aphra almost steals it and walks away, but Luke, being who he is, convinces her to be better, be the best version of herself that she can be at this point in time. And she begrudgingly rolls her eyes and accepts.
Does Luke say this belongs in a museum or
no,
anything like that?
It belongs where this relic specifically was very dangerous. And he's like, it can't just be out and about and you'll be responsible for the dangers it causes. And so he wants to take it back. But I do really like the idea of the New Republic and Aphra going around trying to find relics that the Empire stole from planets and then returning them. So
they found it with the Empire and they want to take it back to where it's from?
This one was part of the black market.
Oh, okay.
But this group that she joins at the end, they're called the Daggers, which is a really intense name for a bunch of archaeologists who are trying to go recover these stolen items.
A bunch of nerds. And they were like, we got to have a cool name.
Right. We're the Daggers. That alone brings up some interesting story ideas. I mean, I immediately jumped to the Ryloth arc, which we saw stolen by the Separatists in the Clone Wars. And it was in the hands of the Empire during the Galactic Civil War, so maybe they can track that down and get it back. I don't know. That would be a fun one. The only thing that gave me pause about this issue is there was no mention of Sana Starros or Magna Tolvan, who were both of Aphra's love interests in the first two Aphra series. And at the end of the last one, they're basically part of a throuple. It ends in like a very happily ever after way. And I'm just like, well, where are they? Where'd they go?
Yeah, that's weird.
I think it will be addressed. I don't want to jump to
During
conclusions.
Pride?
Right.
Where are they? Come on.
And I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say like, oh, they've just been written out. I don't think that's the case. I think that we're probably supposed to be like, well, hold on now. Where are Aphra's girlfriends?
Maybe something happened and she's just kind of trying to fill her time with anything else. So she's like avoiding a problem.
There has been a time jump of maybe 2 years.
Okay.
1 or 2 years since we last saw her. So, anything could have happened. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, I don't want to undo them being very happy. But yeah. Dr. Aphra is an agent of chaos, so who knows?
Sure.
It's just the end of the second series felt like a big moment for her where she could have like faked her death and kind of started fresh, but she decided she didn't want to do that and wanted to be with Sana and Magna. So I'm just curious. I just think it's interesting.
I just think it's interesting as well. Where are they?
So
where are the lesbians?
So hopefully they come back into the story soon, or we get some hints as to where they're at. It does sound like Aphra got arrested, so that may have just been something that separated them all. Then she was put on probation, and she immediately got her probation officer to be corrupted and help her steal things, which was funny.
Interesting.
Moving into last week in fandom, this is something a little different but fun from our friends, and it is kind of Star Wars adjacent. So we go to an improv theater, a comedy theater called Dad's Garage, and they did a scripted musical a while back called Wicket, based off of Wicked, but it was about Wicket and the Ewoks and everything. So the writer of that musical and the star of that musical, Wicket herself, they are in a new podcast called Tales from the Cloud Sea, which is an improvised like children's story, which I'm a big fan of improvised podcasts like Hello from the Magic Tavern, Mission to Zix. So this is along that same vein, but it is a story for children. But it is a lot of fun, and they put 2 episodes out. I just wanted to give them a shout out, so if you have kids, go give them a listen. or a watch.
Yeah. It sounds like they talked about that there aren't that many improvised podcasts like that out there for kids.
There are plenty of podcasts for kids and a lot of podcasts that are improvised for adults, but not a lot that meet both of those criteria.
And a lot of the people involved also do kind of like a children's variety playhouse sort of improv show at Dad's Garage already. So they've already been doing stuff probably kind of like this, but this one's like pirate themed?
Yeah, it's like pirates and airships, and each episode they go to a different island and experience a new culture on that island and make up a silly story.
Yeah. I mean, they're great improvisers. We know that. So I think this will be really fun.
But they just launched their first 2 episodes this past week. We're big fans of them. I put a link in the description, so go give them a watch. Moving into last week in questions, Ice Phoenix 2 asks how we're feeling with both Andor and the High Republic wrapping up so close together.
I'm sad, but also relieved. More so with Andor, because I think, we've been doing so much Andor coverage. It's not that I'm tired about talking about Andor, but I think it wrapped up nicely, and Tony Gilroy has talked a lot about how he's done, so that's good. But the High Republic, they keep teasing that it's not done, but like that particular publishing initiative is done. So I don't know how to feel about the High Republic being over.
Yeah, my first thoughts on the High Republic, especially reading Trials of the Jedi, were very bittersweet. But recently they've been talking about how, yes, the publishing initiative, the initial story is wrapping up, but there is going to be more set in this era, maybe following some of the characters we've met. Mike Siglain teased Phase more, which I think is great. So I'm not feeling that bittersweet about it anymore, because I'm like, okay, they keep saying that there's going to be more happening. So I don't feel so sad about it. But it does still feel like the end of an era, because I don't think Phase more will be as interconnected as Phases 1 through 3 were.
I feel like I've prepared myself a lot more for Andor to be over. The book stuff, I'm kind of just excited to see what's next, because I mean they got to keep putting books out, and whether or not it's the High Republic time period, I'm just looking forward to seeing if they're going to do another big publishing initiative like this, or something different, or like what era it's going to be. So I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah. And to echo what you said about Andor, I also did feel, like a sigh of relief when it ended, just because covering shows is a lot. But the sad part of me is on that side of, we're not getting a Phase more for Andor, at least not that we know of. If they had teased that, B2 Emo is getting his own gritty, dark show spinoff, then I'd be like, great.
Yeah.
I have that to look forward to. But right now it's like, well, we don't know if anything like Andor will happen ever again. So there is that sense of melancholy.
I do want to see B2 Emo's revenge tour.
Yeah. We already got, from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi, but part of me wants to learn that, B2 Emo was on the second Death Star and did some critical sabotage, and then, by then he's got R2-D2 style rockets, and he goes flying out of the hangar right behind Luke as it explodes.
I just had a thought. Do you think they'll do a From a Certain Point of View Rogue One?
I don't see why not. People have been wondering what is the future of the From a Certain Point of View series, because they were always for the 40th anniversaries of these movies. So are we going to wait until the 40th anniversary of The Phantom Menace? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think that they're probably gonna keep the series going maybe every 3 years. I don't know.
I was just thinking about that, because I was like, that's an opportunity to get more stories from some of the characters in Andor or Rogue One, and that would be cool.
It's like we just crossed the 25th anniversary, which would have felt like a good time to do it. Now we're still 4 years away from the 30th anniversary, so...
But we can give it a break for a few years, I think, because of Andor, being so popular.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what their plans are for the rest of that, because it would be, yes, a B2 emo from a certain point of view for Rogue One would be devastating. Eloasti asks what we think the future holds for Boba Fett, which is timely with the comic coming out, but also Tamira Morrison was talking about, like, where's my season 2? He wants Book of Boba Fett season 2.
I'm sure he does. I think a lot of people do.
One of my favorite Celebration Tokyo memories is right at the end when we were checking out to go to the airport. We were in our hotel getting our luggage, and I looked over and saw him duct taping a gaffy stick to his suitcase. And I was
wish
like,
I had taken a picture secretly.
I thought about it. We were all at the end of an exhausting weekend, and I didn't want to be that guy snapping it. We also thought about saying hello, but again, he's been saying hello to people the whole time.
Yeah.
So we just that was a little moment for us.
Yeah.
Seeing Boba Fett taping a gaffy stick to his luggage.
I wonder how often he does stuff like that, or like if that was his gaffy stick that he takes everywhere with him, like a security blanket.
I imagined it was something given to him over the weekend. And yeah, I'm like, how many of those do you think he has? I'm not sure exactly what is in store for the future of him as far as I guess I'm not expecting Book of Boba Fett season 2. I don't think we've seen the last of Boba Fett. I feel like we're building up to this New Republic, Thrawn movie, whatever we're calling it, the Dave Filoni movie. And there have been all of these different storylines that I think will converge. I can't imagine Boba Fett will be left out of that.
Right. I think kind of the way that show ended, there's still a lot to explore about like the future of Tatooine and his role there or otherwise, and like Fennec Shand. So I definitely think we'll see him again at some point. Probably not in his own show, but yeah, it would be cool to see him pop up to help out for some bigger thing.
And who knows, he could be playing very coy right now about, he might be in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and he's just doing the whole Ewan McGregor, oh, I'm just waiting for the phone call, where's my season 2, when am I going to pop up again? And he fully knows. I don't know.
They could make a movie for him.
Yeah.
Like, they talked about that years ago.
I mean, that's James Mangold was supposed to direct a Boba Fett movie, and then I think I remember reading that headline as we were sitting down to watch Solo, and then like a week later Disney was like, we're pumping the brakes on Star Wars story, like the anthologies.
Yeah. For Tamura Morrison specifically, I think he's also got a lot of potential for Rex.
Oh yeah, he did mention that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another thing that I think they would want to keep that a secret.
Right.
So he could be in Ahsoka season 2. It's such a great point. Any clone, but specifically Rex at this point. That's something I feel like is likely to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's not Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But
Going back to Boba Fett, though, do you think if they were, let's just say they did plan to eventually make a Boba Fett movie, would it be Tamir Morrison, or would they recast someone younger and like go back in his story?
I guess it depends on the timeline, but at this point, I mean, maybe you just bring Daniel Logan in to do flashbacks.
That would be cool.
He's about the right age. For depending on when you want it to be set, but
yeah. And I mean, if he's got the helmet on for most of it, then there's that you can work around.
Yeah.
Could also do like an animated movie. I don't know why they don't do more of those.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a lot of work for just a movie, but like the Clone Wars movie, we all have issues with that. But I always thought that it would be so cool to get another animated movie like that with a theatrical release.
I'm going to be curious to see what the future of Star Wars Visions Presents
right.
is, because that could be a bit of a testing ground. And I agree that there absolutely could be just an animated Boba Fett movie that is canon. Why not? Like, the Star Wars animation fans just love that side of the universe. And I think maybe a movie would be a good way to get more attention for it for people who are like, I enjoy Star Wars live action, not so much the cartoons. That's not for me.
Yeah.
But if it's just one movie that isn't 7 seasons they have to dive into, and they're like, oh, I'll I'll give that a shot. Mm-hmm. That can show them, how valuable Star Wars animation is.
And I remember a while back that there were rumors that we were maybe getting like a Boba Fett video game too. I think it would be cool if they did a tie-in, like animated movie that tied into a video game.
Yeah, the 1313, I mean, that's the project that everyone who is following it is still devastated over. Mm-hmm. It was very much up my alley. It was like Uncharted, but you're Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's just the video game industry is kind of a hot mess express right now.
Yeah, and that was 10 years ago, at least. I can't remember exactly when the 1313 stuff happened, when they canceled it, but that was quite a ways ago. Mm. But that's it for last week in Star Wars. Next week, we have 2 more comic issues, The High Republic Adventures 19, and Legacy of Vader is back with its 5th issue. We will be covering all those next week, but until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
And consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.